You fought their war, and they didn't even know it was happening. Chosen one, sit with that fact for a second, because it's real. There was a fight that could have ended them, could have taken everything from them, and they never saw the battlefield because you were already standing on it before they even knew there was one. That's the part nobody talks about, not the rescue. The fact that you carried a war on your own back and called it nothing. They're only now putting the pieces together. The late nights that didn't make sense at the time. The way you showed up, tired, but never said why. The way certain people suddenly stopped circling, stopped calling, stopped showing up in places they used to show up, and nobody ever explained the sudden quiet. They thought it was luck. They thought the danger just passed on its own, the way weather passes, the way bad seasons end without anyone doing anything. It didn't pass. You moved it. You stood in the way of it. And it cost you something they're only starting to understand. Here's what makes this different from every other story people tell about survival. You didn't fight for credit. You didn't fight so someone would owe you. You fought because the alternative was watching people you loved walk straight into something that would have broken them, and you couldn't let that happen, even quietly, even if it meant nobody ever knew your name was attached to it. That's not weakness. That's not softness. That's the rarest kind of strength there is, the kind that doesn't need an audience to be real. But here's where the story turns. Debt doesn't disappear just because nobody names it out loud. Debt sits, it waits. It collects itself in the dark until the day someone finally looks back and realizes what almost happened and who stood in the gap. And that day has arrived. They are starting to see it now, piece by piece, moment by moment, and it is landing on them heavier than they expected. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about making anyone grovel. This is about a truth finally getting its turn to be seen. You fought a war they didn't know existed, and you won it quietly, and now the weight of what you carried is finally being placed where it belongs, at your feet, in the open, where it should have been the whole time. Before we go any further, hit that like button and subscribe, not for me, for the message, so it reaches the next person who's been carrying something nobody's noticed yet. That's how this works. That's how it gets passed forward. Let's talk about what almost happened to them and why you never let it. Chosen one, drop a 77 in the comments if you feel this one in your chest already, because this next part is going to explain everything that's been unexplainable to you. If you want to fuel this message further, the super thanks button is right there, and every bit of it keeps stories like yours getting told the way they deserve to be told. Now let's go step by step. 14 chapters. Stay with me until the end, because the last one changes how you see every sacrifice you've ever made in silence. Number 1. The war they never saw because you were already standing in it. There was a version of their life that almost happened. A darker one. A version where the thing coming for them actually reached them, actually landed, actually took what it came to take. You know this because you were there before it got close enough for them to feel it. Not standing beside them, wondering what to do. Standing in front of them, absorbing the first hit so it never made it past you. They didn't ask you to do that. That's the part that matters most. Nobody handed you a role. Nobody said, take this on, carry this weight, put your body between them and whatever's coming. You just did it, the way people do things when the alternative is unthinkable. Not because it made you a hero, because the other option wasn't an option at all. Think about how quiet real protection actually is. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up wearing a sign that says, I am the reason this didn't happen to you. It just happens in the background, in the version of events that never gets written down because it never got the chance to occur. Imagine 2 timelines running side by side, one where you step in and one where you don't. In one, life continues, messy but intact. In the other, something breaks that never gets fully fixed. They're living in the first timeline right now, and they don't even know there was ever a second one waiting to happen. That's the strange cruelty of being the one who prevents disaster. You don't get remembered for the disaster. You get overlooked, because from where they're standing, nothing ever went wrong. The war was invisible to them because you made sure it stayed that way. You didn't fight for a story people would tell later. You fought so there wouldn't be a story to tell at all. Just an ordinary day, an unremarkable Tuesday, a life that kept going the way it was supposed to. But here's the thing about wars fought in silence. They still cost something. You don't walk through that kind of fight and come out exactly the same. Something in you changed while you were protecting what they didn't know needed protecting. You got quieter in certain rooms. You started noticing things other people missed. You built a kind of alertness that never fully turns off, even now, even when the danger's gone. And they're starting to feel the outline of it now, even if they can't name it yet. The way you flinch slightly at things that shouldn't bother anyone. The way you check on people twice, 3 times, when once should have been enough. The way you never fully relax, even in safe rooms. That's not a personality trait. That's a war wound from a war they never saw you fight. They thought the calm they've been living in was just how life is. It wasn't. It was the result of someone standing exactly where the danger would have passed through and choosing to be there instead of letting it continue on its path. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's you. Number 2. What almost happened to them and how close it actually got. Let's be honest about how close it really was, because they don't fully know yet, and that ignorance is about to end. There's a version of events people tell themselves that makes the danger feel distant, manageable, exaggerated in memory. That's comfortable. It's also not true. It was closer than they think. It was close enough that if you hadn't stepped in when you did, there would be no comfortable version of this story to tell at all. They remember the moment things got hard. They remember the tension, the fear, the sense that something was wrong. What they don't remember, because they were never shown it, is the actual size of what was coming for them. You saw it clearly. You understood exactly what was at stake, and you made a decision most people never have to make. You decided their safety mattered more than your own comfort, your own rest, your own peace of mind. Imagine a bridge about to collapse under the weight of everyone crossing it, and one person quietly reinforcing the supports underneath, unseen, unpaid, unthanked, simply because letting it fall wasn't something they could live with. That's what you did. Not dramatically. Not with an audience watching. Just steadily, methodically, making sure the structure held long enough for everyone else to get across safely. They ask themselves now, why did that situation resolve the way it did? Why didn't things fall apart the way they were supposed to? Why did the thing that should have broken everything somehow just quietly stop? They called it timing. They called it luck. They called it things working out. None of those words are accurate. The accurate word is you. Here's what's hitting them now that they're starting to understand the scale of it. This wasn't a small favor. This wasn't a minor inconvenience you absorbed on their behalf. This was the difference between the life they're living now and a life that would have looked completely different, harder, darker, permanently altered by something they never had to face because you made sure they never had to. And you never once used it against them. You never once said, "Do you know what I stopped from reaching you?" You never once made them feel small for not noticing. That silence, that refusal to cash in on what you did, that's what makes this whole thing land differently now that they're seeing it clearly. You didn't just save them. You let them keep their peace of mind about how close it actually was. That's a second sacrifice stacked on top of the first one, and they're only now realizing both of them happened at the same time. Number 3. Why you carried it without asking for anything back. People assume protection comes with a price tag attached, even if it's unspoken. Do this for me and remember it. Do this for me and owe me. That's how most people operate. And it's not evil. it's just human. But you didn't operate that way, and that's exactly why what you did carries so much more weight now that it's finally being seen. You didn't step into that fight thinking about what it would earn you later. You weren't calculating future gratitude. You weren't building a case you'd cash in during an argument, the way people sometimes do, bringing up old sacrifices like receipts. You just did what needed doing, and then you let it go, quietly, without holding onto it as leverage. Think about how rare that actually is. Most sacrifice comes with strings, even thin ones. Yours didn't. You carried the weight, and then you set it down without asking anyone to acknowledge you'd been carrying it at all. That's not because it didn't matter to you. It's because you understood something a lot of people never learn, that real protection isn't a transaction. It's not a loan you expect repaid with interest. It's just what you do for people who matter, whether or not they ever find out. Imagine holding a door open in a storm so hard it's tearing at your arms, holding it for hours, for people who walk through without even glancing at who's holding it steady. That's what carrying this alone looked like for you. Nobody clocked the effort because the effort was designed to be invisible. The whole point was that they'd never have to feel the wind. And here's the twist that's landing on them now. The fact that you never asked for credit is exactly why the credit means so much more now that it's arriving anyway. If you demanded recognition, this would just be a settling of accounts. Because you never asked, because you let it sit quietly in the dark for as long as it needed to, what's happening now isn't a debt being collected. It's a truth finally being allowed to breathe. They're starting to understand that the people who protect without asking for anything back are the ones whose protection actually meant something. Anyone can help loudly, publicly, with an audience watching and applause expected. Almost nobody can help completely in the dark and then walk away without needing anyone to know. You did. And now, without you asking for it, they know anyway. Number 4. The exhaustion they mistook for distance. There was a stretch of time where you weren't fully present, and they noticed, and some of them judged you for it. You seemed far away. You seemed tired, in a way that didn't match the pace of ordinary life. You stopped showing up the way you used to, not because you stopped caring, but because carrying an invisible war takes something out of a person that doesn't come back easily. They called it distance. Some of them called it worse. They wondered if something had changed between you, if you'd grown cold, if you'd pulled away for reasons that had something to do with them personally. None of that was true, and the real reason is only landing on them now. You weren't pulling away from them. You were standing between them and something they never got to see. And that kind of standing takes everything out of a person. Imagine someone holding their breath for months at a time, not because they want to, but because letting it out even for a second might mean losing focus on the one thing keeping everyone else safe. That's what your exhaustion actually was. Not disinterest, not distance. Vigilance that never got to rest, because resting felt like a risk you weren't willing to take with their safety. Some of them said things they shouldn't have said during that time. Some of them accused you of not caring the way you used to. That stings differently now that the truth is surfacing, because the accusation was the exact opposite of what was actually happening. You cared so much, you never let yourself put the weight down, not even for a moment, not even when your body was begging you to. They're starting to remember the specific moments now, the way you'd go quiet mid-conversation, the way certain topics made you flinch, the way you'd check your phone more than usual, the way relief would cross your face for no reason anyone could explain. Every one of those moments had a cause. They just didn't have access to it at the time. This is the part that's hardest for them to sit with. They spent that period frustrated with you, when the truth was, you were the reason that period didn't turn into something far worse for them. The exhaustion they judged was the exhaustion of someone fighting a war on their behalf while pretending everything was fine so nobody else had to carry the fear along with you. Number 5. Why silence was the actual price of keeping them safe. You could have told them. At almost any point along the way, you could have sat everyone down and said, "Here's what's happening, here's what I'm dealing with, here's what's coming for you, and what I'm doing to stop it." You didn't. And the reason you didn't wasn't about secrecy for its own sake. It was about protecting the one thing they still had left, which was peace. Telling them everything would have handed them the fear without handing them any of the power to actually do something about it. It would have made them carry weight they had no ability to lift, weight that was never theirs to lift in the first place. So you made a choice that cost you more than telling them ever would have. You chose to carry it alone and let them keep sleeping through nights that would have kept you both awake if they'd known. Imagine standing at the edge of a room where everyone inside is laughing, relaxed, unaware that just outside the door something dangerous is circling, and choosing to stay outside in the cold rather than bring that danger's shadow in with you. That's what silence cost you. Not comfort, not ease. A kind of loneliness that most people will never have to understand, because most people never carry something big enough to require that kind of silence. They're realizing now that your quiet wasn't emptiness, it was discipline. Every time you almost said something and stopped yourself, every time you changed the subject when things got close to the truth, every time you smiled through something that should have broken you, that was a decision, made over and over, to protect their peace at the cost of your own. And here's what makes this land the way it's landing now. Silence like that isn't sustainable forever. It builds up. It asks something of the person carrying it that eventually has to be released somewhere. The fact that you held it as long as you did, without cracking, without making it their burden, that's not something small. That's one of the heaviest gifts a person can give someone else, and it's usually the gift nobody notices until long after it's been given. They're starting to understand that the silence wasn't the absence of love, it was one of its clearest forms. Number 6. The ledger nobody was keeping until now. There's an old idea that good things done quietly still get recorded somewhere, even if nobody's watching. Even if no one ever finds out. Call it karma, call it the universe, call it whatever fits your understanding of how the world balances itself. Whatever you call it, something has been keeping track, because what's happening now doesn't look like coincidence. It looks like an account finally being settled. You never asked anyone to keep score. You weren't doing what you did so it would come back around later. But debts like this have a strange way of surfacing on their own, without anyone forcing the issue, without anyone demanding payment. They just rise, slowly, the way truth tends to rise when it's been kept underwater for too long. Imagine a stone dropped into deep water, sinking out of sight, forgotten by everyone except the water itself, which remembers exactly where it landed. Years later, without anyone reaching in, that stone somehow finds its way back to the surface. That's what's happening now. Nobody dug this up. Nobody forced the reveal. It simply rose, the way real things eventually do. They're starting to notice things they can't explain, the way certain people who once dismissed you are suddenly quieter around you, the way certain conversations keep circling back to what you did without anyone directly saying it. The way the truth of what happened keeps finding cracks to slip through, no matter how carefully it was buried. That's not you pushing this into the open. That's the ledger closing itself. And here's the part that should sit with you the longest. You never needed anyone to keep this record for your sake. You would have carried it silently forever, if that's what it took. But apparently the world doesn't work that way. Apparently what gets given without expectation still gets counted somewhere, still gets weighed, still gets returned eventually in its own time, on its own terms, whether the giver asked for it or not. They didn't build this reckoning. It built itself out of the plain fact of what actually happened. and now it's arriving at their door, whether they're ready for it or not. Number 7. What owing someone like you actually means. Let's be precise about what this debt actually is, because it's easy to misunderstand it as something small, something that can be settled with a thank you or a nice gesture. It's not that kind of debt. When someone stands between you and something that could have ended everything, what you owe them isn't a transaction. It's a recognition that your current life exists because of a choice someone else made on your behalf, at cost to themselves, without asking permission first. That's a heavier thing to carry than people initially realize. It's not embarrassing, it's not something to run from, but it does require something from the person who received it, and that something is honesty. Honesty about what almost happened. Honesty about who stood in the way of it. Honesty about the fact that gratitude this real doesn't get satisfied by a single gesture, because the thing being honored isn't a favor, it's a life that continued instead of one that didn't. Imagine someone pulling you back from the edge of something you didn't even know you were standing near, and only realizing years later how close you actually came to falling. The gratitude that hits in that moment isn't polite, it isn't small. It's the kind that changes how you see the person who pulled you back, permanently, in a way that reshapes the whole relationship going forward. That's what they're beginning to feel now, and it's uncomfortable, because gratitude that large doesn't fit neatly into casual conversation. It doesn't fit into a quick message or an offhand comment. It sits heavy, and heavy things take time to hold properly. They're not going to figure out how to repay this in a day, and honestly, they shouldn't try to rush it, because rushing it would cheapen what it actually is. What owing someone like you means, in the end, is simple and enormous at the same time. It means they get to keep existing in the shape their life currently has, because you decided their safety mattered enough to sacrifice your own comfort for it. That's not a debt paid off with a gift card or an apology. That's a debt honored through how they choose to treat you, see you, and show up for you from this point forward. Number 8. The people who mocked you, not knowing what you were carrying. Here's the part that stings the most when you look back on it. While you were standing in the middle of an invisible war, absorbing hit after hit so it never reached the people you loved, some of those same people found reasons to criticize you. They called you distant. They called you dramatic when your exhaustion showed through the cracks. They rolled their eyes at your quiet moments, assuming you were being difficult, instead of understanding you were being depleted by something they couldn't see. That's the cruelest irony in any story like this one. The very thing that made you seem strange to them was the exact thing keeping them safe. They mistook the cost of your protection for a personal flaw. They judged the symptoms without ever knowing the cause, and there was nothing you could do about that at the time, because explaining the cause would have meant handing them the fear you were working so hard to keep away from them. Imagine a soldier coming home, changed by something nobody at home witnessed, and being criticized for seeming distant, seeming tired, seeming like they've lost their old spark, when the truth is, they gave that spark up on purpose to make sure everyone back home never had to feel what they felt. That's close to what happened here. You came back from something they never saw, carrying marks they mistook for coldness, and some of them let you know they noticed the coldness without ever asking what caused it. They're starting to feel the weight of that now, the specific comments, the specific moments of impatience directed at you when what you actually deserved was concern, or at the very least, curiosity about what was going on underneath. That regret is real, and it should be. Not to punish anyone forever, but because understanding it fully matters more than smoothing it over quickly. Here's what's true though, and it's worth saying plainly. You didn't do what you did to be thanked properly by everyone in real time. You did it because it needed doing. But the people who mocked what they didn't understand are now facing the specific discomfort of realizing their judgment landed exactly where their protector was standing. That discomfort is part of the debt too, and it doesn't disappear just because the danger already has. Number 9. How they're piecing it together, one clue at a time. Nobody sat them down and delivered the whole story at once. That's not how truths like this usually surface. They arrive in fragments, small realizations stacking on top of each other until the full picture becomes impossible to ignore. A comment here, a detail there, a moment where something you said years ago suddenly makes sense in a completely different light. They're in that phase right now, the slow accumulation phase, where isolated memories are starting to connect into something coherent. That strange week where you disappeared for 2 days without much explanation. That time you insisted on being somewhere you had no obvious reason to be. That conversation you steered away from so smoothly they didn't even notice you'd done it until they thought back on it now. Imagine assembling a photograph, one torn piece at a time, having no idea what the full image is until enough pieces are finally in place, and then suddenly stepping back and seeing a picture that changes the meaning of every piece that came before it. That's what's happening in their mind right now. Each memory used to sit alone, unremarkable, explainable in a dozen small ways. Together, they tell a different story entirely. This part of the process can't be rushed, and honestly, it shouldn't be. Understanding something this large all at once would be overwhelming in a way that might make them shut down rather than absorb it. The slow reveal, uncomfortable as it might feel from your side, is actually giving them the space to arrive at the truth in a way they can actually hold. You don't need to explain every remaining piece to them. You don't need to fill in every gap on their timeline. What's happening now is happening because the truth wants to be known, and it's finding its own way there, piece by piece, at its own pace, without you having to force any of it. That's not weakness on your part. That's patience. The same patience you used while you were protecting them in the first place, now doing its quiet work on the other side of the story. Number 10. The apology that's coming, whether they're ready or not. There's a specific kind of apology that only becomes possible once someone fully understands what they missed, and they're getting close to that point now. It won't be a quick sorry tossed off in passing. It's going to be heavier than that, because the more they understand about what actually happened, the more they realize a simple apology barely scratches the surface of what's owed. You should know something important here. You don't have to demand this apology. You don't have to bring it up, push for it, or make anyone feel cornered into giving it. If what happened is real, and it is, the apology arrives on its own timeline, driven by their own growing understanding, rather than by pressure from you. That's actually what makes it worth something. Forced apologies are cheap. Earned ones, the ones that come from someone genuinely reckoning with what they missed, those carry weight. Imagine someone slowly waking up from a fog, realizing as the fog clears that they'd been walking past something important the entire time without noticing it, and feeling the specific embarrassment of having missed something that obvious for that long. That embarrassment, uncomfortable as it is part of what pushes a real apology to the surface. It's not guilt for guilt's sake. It's the natural response of someone finally seeing clearly. When it comes, and it will, it's not going to feel like closure exactly. It's going to feel like the beginning of something. A new baseline for how they treat you, how they listen to you, how seriously they take the things you say, even when you're not explaining every reason behind them. That shift matters more than the apology itself. The words are just the entry point. You don't need to brace for this or rehearse how you'll respond. When it happens, you'll know what to say, because you've spent this whole time being honest without needing anyone to catch up to you. Their apology isn't the finish line. It's just the moment they finally step onto the same page you've been standing on the entire time. Number 11. Why you never asked them to notice, and why that's exactly the point. There's a temptation, when something like this comes to light, to feel like you should have said something sooner, made sure they knew, made your sacrifice visible in real time so it wouldn't take this long to be recognized. Let go of that thought completely. The fact that you never asked them to notice is not a failure on your part. It's the clearest proof of why what you did was real in the first place. And sacrifice that requires an audience to feel worthwhile isn't really sacrifice, it's performance. What you did wasn't performance. Nobody was watching. Nobody was keeping score on your behalf while it was happening. You just did what needed to be done because the people on the other side of it mattered enough to justify the cost, whether or not anyone would ever trace the outcome back to you. Imagine planting something in soil nobody will ever walk past, tending it carefully for years, with no expectation that anyone will ever see it bloom, simply because you believe it deserves to grow, regardless of who witnesses it. That's the kind of care you gave, unwitnessed, unclaimed, given completely, without conditions attached to whether or not it would ever be acknowledged. The recognition happening now is not something you engineered. It's a byproduct of truth, doing what truth eventually does, rising to the surface on its own schedule. You didn't need it to happen, for the sacrifice to have been worth it. It was already worth it the moment it kept them safe. Everything happening now is simply extra, a kind of grace arriving after the fact, not a correction of something that was previously incomplete. This matters because it changes how you should carry what's coming next. You're not owed anything you didn't already receive in full at the moment you made the choice to protect them. What's arriving now, the recognition, the apology, the shift in how they see you, that's not payment completing an unfinished transaction. That's simply the world catching up to something that was already whole the entire time. Number 12. What actually changes now that they know? Something is different now, and it's worth naming clearly instead of letting it stay vague. Once someone understands what was actually done for them, the relationship doesn't go back to what it was before. It can't. You don't unknow something like this. The way they see you now carries a weight the old version of the relationship never had, and that weight is going to show up in small, specific ways going forward. They're going to listen differently when you speak, even about small things, because they now understand you're someone who thinks ahead, someone who sees what others miss, someone whose quiet observations turned out to matter more than anyone realized at the time. That shift in how you're heard, that's real, and it's earned, and it's not something you need to ask for. It's simply what happens once someone understands the scale of what you're capable of carrying without complaint. Imagine a room that used to treat someone as background noise, suddenly realizing that person had been the load-bearing wall the entire structure depended on. Nobody looks at a load-bearing wall the same way once they understand what happens if it's removed. That's what's happening to how they see you now. You've gone from background to foundation, in their eyes, in a way that can't be undone. This doesn't mean everything suddenly becomes easy, or that old patterns disappear overnight. People are slow to fully change, even after realizing something this significant. But the direction has shifted. The baseline has moved. Where they used to overlook you, they're starting to check in. Where they used to assume your calm meant nothing was wrong, they're starting to ask twice, just to be sure. That's not perfection. That's progress. And it's the kind of progress that only comes after truth like this fully lands. You don't have to force any of this along. It's already moving on its own, because understanding like this doesn't fade once it arrives. It just keeps reshaping how people show up, a little more each time, until eventually the way they treat you matches the reality of who you've actually been the entire time. Number 13. The quiet weight of being someone's reason for still being here. There's a particular kind of weight that comes with knowing you were the reason something didn't happen to someone. the reason their life continued in the shape it currently has, instead of breaking into something unrecognizable. That weight isn't something people talk about often, because it doesn't fit neatly into celebration. It's heavier than pride, and quieter than grief, sitting somewhere in between, and it's worth acknowledging honestly instead of brushing past it. You carry the memory of how close it actually was, even if they're only now catching up to that understanding. That's not a small thing to hold alone for as long as you held it. There were nights you probably replayed what could have happened if you hadn't stepped in when you did. Nights where the size of the responsibility pressed down harder than usual. Nights nobody else knew you were carrying because you never let it show. Imagine standing quietly at the edge of someone's life, having pulled them back from something they'll never fully understand the size of, watching them continue on, laughing, living, moving forward, completely unaware of how close the alternative actually came. That specific kind of watching, proud and lonely at the same time, is something only the people who've truly protected someone else ever understand. It's not something you explain to people who haven't lived it. It's something you simply carry. Now that the truth is surfacing, some of that weight is finally being shared, finally being witnessed by the people it was always meant to reach eventually. That doesn't erase the nights you carried it alone, but it does mean you don't have to carry it entirely by yourself anymore. That shift matters. Weight shared, even weight from the past, feels different than weight held in complete isolation. Let yourself feel whatever comes up here, whether it's pride, exhaustion finally catching up with you, or a strange kind of grief for the version of yourself that had to be so strong for so long without anyone noticing. All of that is valid. All of that is part of what it actually meant to be someone's reason for still being here. And it deserves to be honored, not minimized, now that it's finally being seen. Number 14. Why this debt can never fully be repaid, and why that's exactly as it should be. Here's the truth that closes this out, and it's worth sitting with fully instead of rushing past. What you did cannot be repaid in any conventional sense. There's no gesture large enough, no apology thorough enough, no gift meaningful enough to fully balance the scale of what it means to have stood between someone and a version of their life that never got to happen because you stopped it. And that's not a sad ending to this story. That's actually the point. Real debts of this size were never meant to be settled with a transaction. They're meant to be honored through how someone lives afterward, how they show up, how carefully they hold the relationship going forward, knowing what it actually took to preserve it. That's a different kind of repayment than a gift or a favor. It's a repayment made of attention, of presence, of finally seeing someone clearly after years of looking past them without realizing it. Imagine a debt that isn't paid off in one transaction, but instead paid slowly, over years, in the form of someone finally treating you the way your actions always deserved. Checking in when they used to assume you were fine, listening when they used to talk over you, noticing when they used to look past you. That ongoing repayment, small and consistent, is worth more than any single grand gesture could ever be, because it's proof the understanding actually stuck, instead of fading the way realizations sometimes do. You didn't fight that war for repayment. You fought it because the people on the other side of it mattered enough to justify everything it cost you. But now that the truth has surfaced on its own, now that they're starting to understand what you carried and what it means, let this be the thing you hold on to. You don't need to chase closure here. You don't need to demand anything else from anyone. The truth already did its work. It found its way to the surface exactly the way it needed to, and it's not going back under. You were never invisible. You were just early, standing in a place nobody else could see yet, holding something nobody else understood the weight of, protecting people who are only now catching up to how much that protection actually cost you. That catching up isn't the end of the story. It's simply the moment the story finally gets told the way it always deserved to be told, with your name where it belongs, at the center of it. If this one hits somewhere real, let it sit with you for a second before you scroll away. Like this video, subscribe if you're not already part of this, and share it with someone who's been carrying something nobody's noticed yet. They need to hear this too. Thanks for being here, Chosen One. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.